I thought my uncle had lost his mind. He kept saying there was something behind the cellar door, something that whispered when the lights went out. I laughed it off until I found his diary. That was 3 nights ago, and I haven't slept since. When Uncle Charles died, I was the only one left to deal with the house. He had no children, no friends left in town. Only stories about his mind unraveling, about voices in the walls, about a door that should never be opened. The house stood at the edge of the old quarry, surrounded by brittle trees and a yard that always looked wet, even when it hadn't rained. It was the kind of house that never seemed completely empty, no matter how long it stood silent. Inside, the air was heavy and cold. There was the smell of books, mildew, and something faintly metallic, like rust or blood. The wallpaper was yellowed and peeling, and every time I crossed a hallway, I thought I heard another footstep echo mine, half a beat behind. Mrs. Malkin, the housekeeper, was waiting in the foyer. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, like the house had been feeding on her too. When I mentioned the cellar, her hands tightened around the ring of keys she held. "You'll find everything in order," she said softly, "except the door." He told me never to open that door. Her voice cracked on the last word. I asked her why, but she only shook her head. "Best not to go near it after dark," she murmured, then left before the sun was fully down. That night, I slept in his old room. The sheets were cold and smelled faintly of smoke. Somewhere below, something shifted, slow and deliberate, like furniture dragged across stone. Then came the faint rhythm of tapping, steady as a heartbeat, and then a voice. "Don't open it." It wasn't loud, not even clear, but it came from under the floor. I lay still, staring at the ceiling until morning light crept across the wall. When I finally went downstairs, the air in the hall felt different, heavier, colder. The cellar door was shut, but something about the way it sat against the frame made my skin crawl. I tried the handle. It didn't move. On the desk in the study, I found his diary. At first, it was filled with neat, calm handwriting. Notes about the weather, the garden, the neighbors. Then the script changed. The lines uneven, pressed too hard into the paper. "The voice behind the door is patient," he wrote. "It doesn't speak when I'm awake. Only when I start to drift off. It's learning my words." Later, the handwriting turned frantic. "It knows my name now." The last page was stained with something dark, and the final line trailed off mid-sentence. I closed the diary and sat in silence, the sound of my own heartbeat loud in my ears. From the parlor, a draft stirred the curtains. It smelled like damp earth. I told myself I'd finish sorting the papers, sell the place, and leave before the week was over. But that night, I dreamed I was standing at the cellar door, hearing my uncle's voice whispering from the other side. When I woke, my hand was on the doorknob. The house was quiet, but the air was alive, vibrating, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I lit a lantern and went down the steps. Each step groaned under my weight, and with every one, the temperature dropped. The smell of mildew was sharp, almost chemical. Water dripped from somewhere unseen. When I reached the bottom, I saw the door, plain, wooden, too ordinary for all the fear it carried. I stood there for a long time. Then I heard it again, faint, like someone speaking through a dream. It was whispering my name. "Come in." The voice was familiar now. It sounded like mine. I opened the door. The cellar was not what I remembered. The floor shimmered like wet glass, the walls pulsing faintly as if breathing. At the far end stood another door, smaller, darker, and moving, as if something behind it pressed outward in slow rhythm. I took a step forward, the air buzzed, my skin prickling. Then the whispering stopped. In the silence that followed, I could hear something else, a heartbeat, not my own. My lantern flickered, and for a second, I saw my reflection in the wet floor. It smiled. I didn't. The next thing I remember is waking on the cellar floor at dawn. The door was shut, my lantern was cold, and Mrs. Malkin was standing at the top of the stairs, eyes wide with fear. "You opened it," she whispered. "He said whoever opens it doesn't come back the same." I tried to speak, but my voice came out wrong, deeper, slower, like someone else was speaking through me. She backed away, shaking her head. "His voice sounded like that too," she said, before she ran from the house. "That was 2 nights ago. The diary is gone. But at night, when the wind moves through the halls, I hear that same heartbeat again, closer now, somewhere above me. I think they're upstairs this time. Some doors don't lead anywhere. Others never stop opening." I have not slept in weeks, not in any way that counts. I close my eyes, and something that looks like sleep takes me, but I do not rest there. The place I go smells of iron and dust. The air hums without source. The light has no direction. When I wake, my mouth tastes like old copper, and my hands feel as if they've been clenching something I can't remember. I used to think this was just a phase, that nerves would settle, that sunlight could wash it out of me. But daylight now feels like a lid pressed over a jar. My thoughts still move, but only in circles. Main story, I didn't begin like this. It began quietly, the way a crack begins in glass. I woke one night to a weight on my chest and the feeling that my room had shifted a few inches to the left. Everything was the same and not the same. The dresser was there, the curtains still, yet the space between things felt altered, smaller, tighter, as if the walls had inhaled. I tried to move and couldn't, tried to shout, but the voice broke behind my teeth. Then came a breath that wasn't mine. It multiplied, soft and close, several at once, gathering near the foot of my bed. They exhaled together, listening. Morning came, like mercy, forced through a keyhole. I laughed because laughing was easier than screaming. I told myself it was sleep paralysis, stress, a dream. But later, when I looked at my hands, my palms were cut and my nails broken. The next night, I left the lamp on, placed a glass of water within reach, as if that could tether me to waking life. Sleep came anyway, slow and deliberate. The same room received me. The same breath waited at the edge of the bed. I forced myself to turn, to see it, and something touched the blanket near my ankle, then another near my knee. Each touch was rhythmic, patient, almost curious. When I woke, the lamp still burned, but its light looked old. I began keeping a notebook. Dream again. The first entry read. Couldn't move. Felt, watched. Another night. Heard whisper. Not words, but shape of words. Then it waits. The whisper had form now. Not a sound, but the intent of language. It asked questions in silence. It waited for answers I didn't know I was giving. If this were only about bad sleep, I'd have found help. But it followed me into the day. Reading by the window one afternoon, I saw the air ripple above the floor like heat over asphalt. When I stood, it vanished. When I sat, it returned. When I touched it, the air was cold. That night, the breath came sooner. It didn't wait for sleep. It stood in the doorway and made a sound like velvet rubbed together. I tried to outwalk it, outtalk it, drown it with music, light, or noise, but it always waited in the quiet between sounds. Then one night, I challenged it. "If you're real," I said, "speak." Silence stretched, long enough for victory to feel possible. Then, from under the bed, a low note rose, a sound not heard, but felt behind the eyes. It hummed through my bones, like something tuning itself to me. Days passed. I kept working, eating, pretending, but now every hallway had two versions, one bright, one slightly wrong. In the wrong one, time slowed, and the ceiling seemed closer. The lamp's light fell short of the floor. I tried writing for help. My hand froze halfway through a letter. When I looked down, a new line had written itself below mine. "It knows you're writing about it." The night I heard my name, I knew it had learned me completely. The voice spoke at once, half correct, then again perfectly. It sounded like me. I said, "Yes." It laughed, softly, kindly. People expect monsters to have shapes. Mine does not. The house itself has agreed to share its body with something unseen. The walls breathe. The floor answers footsteps. The faucet hums when no water runs. A glass drifts half an inch and stops, embarrassed. I whisper, "Not now." Sometimes it obeys. I tried staying awake. Endless coffee, walks until dawn. But sleep isn't a permission anymore. It's a door that opens behind me. One night, I let it happen. I opened my eyes inside the dream and saw the room. My room shifted again. The lamp glowed wrong. The curtains hung still. The air near the door thickened into a shape, like clay kneaded by invisible hands. It moved toward the chair, testing existence. Then the dream corridor appeared, long, iron-scented, lit by no light, with doors that weren't doors, flat until you looked away. I touched one. It bent like bread and let me through. Inside was a room that imitated mine badly, the bed coffin narrow, the mirror wrong. I looked into it. My face smiled back, but it wasn't my smile. Whatever waited at the foot of my bed had borrowed my reflection to practice being me. When I woke, morning existed again, but I didn't trust it. The mirror showed only me, yet the pad by my bed had a new line written in my hand. Neat, deliberate, we should rest. After that, I started hearing it even when awake. A rhythm hidden in quiet spaces, the pause between footsteps above me, the hum before the fridge clicks on. It answered questions I hadn't asked. I set the room like a stage lamp turned outward, chair cleared, blankets folded, and spoke to the air. If you're coming, come as you are. The house held its breath. When I finally closed my eyes, the corridor welcomed me back. The breath, or the thing made of breath, stood behind me. It shared my shape perfectly now. It raised my hand and placed it on my chest, and I understood it didn't want to replace me. It wanted to share me. You can hate what hurts you, but not what wants to be you. I woke crying, and the tears didn't feel mine. On the pad, another sentence waited, clean and patient. We are almost done. 2 nights without sleep followed, or maybe none at all. Reality thinned. Even the air had weight. The kitchen's shadow leaned when I bent. I could feel it learning my gestures, the way a student copies a teacher. I'm writing this now, before it finishes the lesson. It waits behind the page, aligning my words as I type. It's patient. Love is patient. If I wake tomorrow and this page is blank, it means I am gone. If I wake and find new words written, it means it's still learning. Listen carefully right now. As you breathe, there's another rhythm, just slightly out of sync with yours. That is how it begins. If you ever hear your name whispered the way only you would say it, Don T, answer, or do, it doesn't matter. Either way, it already knows you.